Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and specifically this is a Dungeon Master video. So if you think you were showing up to watch a video for players and Dungeon Masters, no, I'm reviewing a product designed for Dungeon Masters. I will probably try to avoid doing too many spoilers, but I'm not going to stop that from me talking about things when I think I need to. So this is a review of The Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This is a nautical adventure put out by Wizards of the Coast. They have been getting vastly better at doing this sort of thing. I'm going to actually show you the book as I talk, so you might find occasionally I sort of have to pause as I turn or flip pages and look at my notes, because I had quite a few notes on this book. As you would expect, it's a large book. Certainly worth your money in my opinion. Okay, so here we go. Here it is. This is what we've got. I have to say that the artwork, I know a lot of people thought the artwork was a bit of a mixed bag, a sort of a combination of different artists. Well, actually it is. It's exactly that. So it would make a lot of sense that the artwork you get in there is going to be slightly different depending on what you're looking at. And also too, I think a lot of people didn't understand when they were looking at this book, particularly as they start opening it up, is that some of the artwork that's in there is of a different style, using different types of medium. So a little bit confusing for people, I do realise. Okay, so it gives you a breakdown of what this sort of the intro for this adventure is on the back. It's basically a seafaring. Now, when I say seafaring, I don't mean underwater. Really, a lot of the adventure does not, or adventures, because it's a selection of different adventures, doesn't take place underwater. So there's one of the things you need to remember. This is a selection of adventures that have already been put out and found success in the past. So it makes a lot of sense that they would reproduce these rather than try to make something new. And what they have done is they've brought a whole lot of really useful tools into this book to include with the adventure. So it's not just an adventure book. It's actually quite a lot more than that. So let's flip it over, open it up, because I know a lot of people are wanting to see what's inside. And front artwork, I was happy with the artwork on the front. Anything with a Kraken in there is always good, right? So, The Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Now, some of the artwork you will notice is repeat artwork from previous books. There is a disclaimer in an attempt to be funny, but it's not really that funny. Now, the book is broken up essentially into what I would say is a campaign setting at the very beginning, which you'll find on the contents page, which is the first chapter, talking about Saltmarsh. And then the rest of it is sort of the small adventures. And then we get to the end of the book, and then we're talking about the Appendix. And those different appendices are made up of really the toolbox for a Dungeon Master, so they can run their game and use all the things they would require when running something like a nautical adventure of some kind. This book has two covers, by the way. There's a limited edition, which looks very different. I just showed you the one that's the standard version. Now, I have to say that Chapter 1, Saltmarsh, the setting itself, it's got some really good details in there. It's clear information. It's the sort of thing you would be expecting or wanting in the first place. It gives you a good introduction and a little bit of nice artwork. Yes, there are full page artwork sections, usually indicated by each chapter, which I thought is actually a smart way to go. It covers the different factions. There's the traditionalist, and then there's the loyal members. And what I love about this is I wouldn't have to necessarily do a video on this topic, because the NPCs are well laid out, plenty of clear information, easy for you to figure out, includes, as it happens, rumours that will get thrown around, and I would have to say even adventure hooks. So this is based on basically 7 seafaring based adventures. They can be played individually, they can be linked together into a campaign with a bit of work. It's not like you can just run it and you'll be fine. I have to say that the inclusion of a really good map, it is a full colour map, and some really good formatted locations that sort of build into this, excellent. Done a really good job. There is new and updated Dungeons and Dragons stuff in here. So it's not just the old adventure, they have done something with it, and I think that's a good thing. The sinister secret of Saltmarsh is basically this is where it all sort of, most of the adventures sort of revolve around that and its sequel, and then they've added a few others that they thought would be suitable. Now this is very much a mystery, horror, very ghostly. It's not sort of, fluffy vanilla Dungeons and Dragons fantasy. So I wouldn't say it's as far as the Curse of Strahd. It's not that kind of level of, but it's very, very mysterious and very sort of haunted-like, which is why you get the title of The Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This adventure is supposed to take you from level 1 to 12. You can see it's got a really nice map, greatly well laid out, easy to find, locate things. And what I'm really surprised by is, although this adventure is supposed to take you from level 1 to 12, that's with a lot of Dungeon Master extra work. And they have provided some of that extra work for you, so you don't have to freak out too much. Now, the fishing village of Saltmarsh, it's well explained, as I said. You have not just the factions explained, NPCs well laid out for you that you could use. There is included some events that you can, which essentially is like a little mini adventure hook. Well done. They did a great job. There are plenty of rumours that you can drop on your players to get them into the next adventure or the next part of your story if you're wanting to link everything in. And right here is the Downtime Activities, which are included. Look, it includes buying and selling magic items, but it's got carousing. It's a whole bunch of different things. Researching, if you want to do researching, employment, and being a mercenary. All really good things to have. Points of interest are covered, so they don't just give you the town itself, they give you a breakdown of the general location, and there are different locations within Saltmarsh that your players will probably want to explore. Now, you might have noticed the maps are not full colour. A lot of people aren't very happy by that. To be fair, I think they're very functional and practical, but that's just my view. Okay? If you don't like that sort of thing, then maybe this is not the book for you. But the wider area of Saltmarsh has been well mapped out, and there's plenty of detail, and I suspect they expect Dungeon Masters to use this information. That's why it's there in the first place. So I will keep going, and we'll keep floating through here. Yes, there are random encounters and oddities and things that you can find along the way. Plenty of different charts that you can utilise. I'm just going to flip that page there. What I did notice as I was going through here is it's not just about an adventure and a setting book. There's actually a lot more to this. And as you can see, as we wade our way through here, there is right here. I don't know if you can necessarily make that out, but Adventures in Saltmarsh, Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Okay, it gives you a breakdown of the different adventures. So this is sort of giving you a really quick breakdown in the space of a paragraph or less than a paragraph of what the adventures are like. It not only does that, it then suggests how you can integrate Tales from the Yawning Portal and the different adventures into these adventures and how they would sort of interplay. It's not a lot of information. There's still a bit of work the Dungeon Master will have to do. What I do like is the inclusion of the backgrounds. Now, they talk about some of the backgrounds in relation to what already exists in the player's handbook, but there are new backgrounds. The fisher, basically allowing a player to fish and look after themselves and their party, which is always nice. And not usually, I wouldn't say it's a fantastic background, but certainly it's there. The marine is all right. It's not fantastic. The last two, though, certainly stand out for me. That's the shipwright, being able to patch up your ship. Going to be hugely useful in an adventure involving nautical travel, which of course, and a smuggler. Now, that's going to give you access to all sorts of different things, the lowdown. So I think that the backgrounds make sense given the location and the type of adventure this is going to be, but it does cover a lot of the other things. Now, here are the adventures. Now, what I'm going to do, rather than talk about what is going on with each adventure, I'm not going to do that, because it's not necessary. What I'm going to do is tell you what I noticed about each adventure and the adventures in general that really stand out. And those are the things that I want to focus on. So I'm going to be moving quite quickly. The first adventure on Chapter 2 is The Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. Really a collection of 2 adventures, if you ask me. 2 basic locations, and you're going to find out what's going on in this location. First thing I have to say, there is plenty and plenty of decent maps. And although a lot of people feel like it's a mixed style or it's not pretty or colourful enough, they are very functional. They're the sorts of maps that as a dungeon master you could copy without too much trouble, although I don't think you're going to put all the detail in there in the first place, if you ask me. So that, for me, is a big plus. So you're going to get access to a whole bunch of different things. This is really about mystery and horror, this first section. And then the adventure content. Look, these adventures cover supposedly from levels 1 through to 12. Well, it doesn't really, no. The content does include some stuff that really you have to sort of make up yourself. What would that be? Well, level 6, 8, 10, and 12 plus, you're really going to have to do the work yourself. There is included some additional stuff, so don't freak out, because they did include some additional encounters and little stories that are even smaller than these ones that you can include, which is really good. Okay, it's well laid out. Headings are good and bold. There's read aloud text. You can find the mechanics in it there. You can find out, bolded up monsters. The next one, Chapter 3, is Danger at Dunwater. This is really the secret behind Saltmarsh, is that there is activity in the background and there's actually lizard folk very, very close to that location. So they now have to deal with the lizard folk. This is going to continue on. It'll bleed into the next adventure. So I'm going to keep going with this. So well laid out, good descriptions, good information, mechanics easy to find, very easy to follow. Finding stuff, I have to say, given they don't provide like an index, it's done a pretty good job. I still have a beef with Wizards of the Coast. Nice big maps, easy to follow, easy to figure out. But yeah, I still feel like the exclusion of maps that have an index, and an index for more NPCs. It's not so much an issue with short adventures, because these are short adventures, but I still feel like the exclusion of something like the index and these adventures is sort of a bit annoying. I did like when they indexed the maps. They haven't done that here. Explains how to place the adventures in different Dungeons and Dragons worlds. That is the pre-made adventures such as Eberron, Forgotten Realms, so forth. And it should be very easy for you to do yourself in your own game. So don't worry about all of that sort of stuff. It's going to be fine. What I did notice is the adventures start off relatively simple. And I would say that a new Dungeon Master could probably manage these at a stretch starting off. But as you progress throughout the book and play more adventures, they get more complicated near the end. Okay, so Chapter 5 is Isle of the Abbey. Basically, they're going to try and take control of an old abbey. So that's the idea behind that story. But what I did notice, as I said, is that even though these are really nice short adventures, so Dungeon Master preparation is going to be pretty easy for you to do. It's not going to require you to sit there and read 250 pages to figure it all out. You're really looking at less than 30 pages. In some cases, it's even less than 10 pages in terms of your preparation. There's a good mixture of combat, exploration, and role play. So if you're worrying that you wouldn't have that in this adventure booklet, that's there. There's a conclusion, so you know how to sort of tidy and finalize things. And each adventure, they always have something like that. They don't really talk so much about milestones if you're looking for information on milestones. Chapter 6, the final enemy. This is not the final chapter though. The final enemy is basically integrating the first adventure and what's been going on with the lizard folk, and it's all tied up in the sinister secret of Saltmarsh and danger at Dunwater, and it does explain all of that in the book. I have to say, as a product to release to the general public, this was a smart idea. I wasn't too sure what it would be like. I did sort of do a little bit of research and did a video on this, and sort of, in terms of a breaking news. But it's actually done a pretty good job. And the read aloud text, one of the things I noticed about read aloud text is over time you do notice it's always poor if it's really, really long. And most of it is about 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 3 sentences, and then you're straight into it. It doesn't go into a huge amount of detail, which is actually excellent. That's exactly what you want. Not surprised, because this is from older adventures who understood that concept. I don't think some of the modern adventures understand that you do actually have to be very careful. There's a fortress they get to explore, same sort of maps. Dyson, I believe Dyson is the one who's responsible for doing these maps. Well known in the Dungeons and Dragons community. Some great artwork. Now, when I was talking about artwork, you might have noticed that the artwork looks like it's not from the same person. It has been updated. There's other things that have been included, but they have kept some of the older artwork. Not all of it, but certainly a lot of it. Tamarat's Fate. I don't know if I got that pronounced correctly, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's not worth worrying about. Okay? Tamarat's Fate. Moving on. So this is where I would say right now, this is where things get far more complicated. At this point in the adventure booklet, the adventures are more suitable for a semi-experienced to experienced dungeon master rather than a completely new dungeon master. Simply because of the layout, the dynamics that are taking place are a little bit more complicated, and I would say the adventure size a bit longer, and a few extra locations that you might not have had to deal with before. Which is why I would say when it comes to running the last sections of this adventure, I would leave that alone if you are just a new dungeon master, or you're thinking you would just pluck parts of it out and use the end adventures and start them off at a higher level. Certainly I know an experienced dungeon master could handle that. I don't think that's possible for somebody who's new though. Okay, the styes. The styes is, I guess, supposed to be the end of this arc. After that, it's sort of left for you to figure out the rest. Okay, this is actually pretty good if you ask me, but only, as I said, for an experienced dungeon master. Now you'll notice that, see, we had color maps, and then suddenly we go into black and white, and it's back to Dyson doing his stuff. So, like I said, maps, mixed bag, artwork, a mixture, but generally really good. And you'll notice that you get more and more walls of text, where before you had broken up into locations, you don't get that sort of format quite so much in this last adventure. I think because it's not really a dungeon crawl. Really what you'll notice with this adventure book is that it's really just a collection of dungeon crawls. They're not just necessarily in a dungeon, it's a building or so forth. Same sort of layout really, but nothing wrong with the book itself. Honestly, as a piece of toolage for a dungeon master, a really good purchase, certainly worth your time. Now we're getting to the end here, we're getting to the appendix. Right here, you get a selection, as it happens, ships galore, stat blocks, and maps for those ships. Now these are just samples. You could make your own if you wanted to, but it gives you all the things you really need, which I thought was really nice. I mean, it's exactly what you would expect. You would be quite upset if you didn't have something like this in the book, right? And it covers that pretty well. Okay, so there's upgrades. Now here's the problem with the upgrades for your ships. They're high-end magic stuff. So they're very expensive, and there's really very few basic upgrades you can do on your ship that players can do. So you're going to have to come up with that stuff yourself. So that's a big, huge chunk of information that you might have been wanting, and there's nothing like that there, unfortunately. That's a little bit of a problem if you ask me. Okay, what about something like ship combat? So very basic ship combat and travel instructions and information here. Personally, I think it's enough, but if you want really complicated rules and a lot more detail, you're not going to get it out of this book, but there is some information here. After that, we're moving into hazards and ship environments. There's plenty of information, mechanical stuff, as well as just basic ideas, so that you can populate your world that you're building. And really, this is stuff you can tack in You don't have to use it. It's there as a tool for you, but you don't have to use it. Ocean environments and sort of what they would be made up. Plenty of information, really, honestly, pretty well done. Okay, after this, after our basic environments, we get into what I would say is the meat and potatoes for filling in the gaps. So water and coastal based locations and encounters. Now whether they are just going to, there's a whole bunch of random encounters based off level, from level 1 to level 4, and then it's broken up into chunks basically in different locations, open water encounters. So you've got a whole lot of charts if you want that sort of thing. Not every single one of them necessarily has to be a combat encounter, but the vast majority are just a collection of charts and monsters that your players will probably just fight. Okay, what's really good about this section is that you also have included random encounters for ships you might encounter, which you can build as you like. There's charts for building crews, the purpose of a ship, all that sort of stuff, piracy, fishing, passengers, military, mercenary, all that sort of stuff is covered. These are all toolbox stuff, right? Now we get into, they've taken all the ideas around the sea and they've built a whole lot of encounters that you can feed into the gaps or use as just an extension of running your adventure. So Mysterious Island, we all know about Mysterious Island. You've probably read the book or watched the movie. So they've covered this here. Lots of charts, enough framework to get you started, some underwater locations such as a cove reef. There's not a lot of this sort of thing taking place, so they do have a location like that, and they do give you a very basic map that you can utilize. I don't necessarily know that it's going to be useful if you're using maps and miniatures, but certainly a mapped area, and then you can build that into adventure. Wonderful. Wreck of the Marshall, so there's a shipwreck that you can explore or utilize in the game to fill in the gaps again, and a map. Wonderful, awesome. There's some ruins you can explore, and yes, you could put yourself a dragon turtle in there and cause some real havoc for the player's characters. Certainly an option if you wanted to. And plenty more maps yet again. So you can see they've given you plenty of tools to get the job done. In terms of things like magic items, there's only a few magic items. Most of them are based around water adventuring, and there's one cursed magic item which I'm sure the players will not be very happy about, but they do exist. Okay, now we get into monsters and NPCs. Now there's plenty of monsters, some of them are new, some of them are repeats. I would say that they cover most general stuff. It won't necessarily be stuff that sort of stands out and gives you sort of like a, ooh, that's really, really cool, that stands out. There is some, but there's not a huge amount. There's enough here in terms of content that you can make it feel like it's an adventure that's set in a water-based environment. You would still need to use something like the Dungeon Master's guide, and I would say probably also your monster manual. You're not going to be just exclusively using the monsters in the back of this thing. Plenty of different monsters, plenty of stat blocks, as I said, some repeat stuff and some stuff that's essentially new. But I think really, when it came to the tail end of it, really all they're needing to do is build monsters that related to those adventures. So they can't sort of build every single monster you might want into this, because they're based around the adventures that are provided in the book. Okay, so that is it. That's really what I would say in terms of, this is a good product. This is a product that is a campaign setting. It's got a good location. It gives you the basic rules and information you need to run a campaign away from Saltmarsh, the township. So if you wanted to just go nautical and on the sea, not robust enough if you want really crunchy stuff. Plenty of really good adventures, and certainly I think it's actually something that I would love to use. I will definitely use this. I'm more about using short adventures nowadays than long adventures. Now, if you have any questions and feedback, use the comments. That's what it's there for. I have plenty of videos on all sorts of things, reviews of different adventures, Dungeon Master guides. I've got videos for players and Dungeon Masters of every single thing you can possibly imagine. And go check them out at some point. I have a Patreon page where you can go and support me. You get access to stuff that other people don't get access to, and also you get priority on the videos that I make on YouTube. Haha, that's one of the benefits of being a patron. I have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon, and I do have an affiliate link to this particular book, but it's only for the US, so you'll have to use the international links below that if you're in a different country. I also have a merchandise on Teespring, so you can go and check out that if you want to as well. Look, make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos, and I do that quite a lot as it happens. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Where is it? There it is. There's my D20.